So after 13 months, I'm finally back to doing Showdown videos, apparently. So let's just get into that. I'm using my main X and Y team, so I send in Zatu, they send in Sableye, they go for the Taunt, forgetting I have Magic Bounce, I guess, and that gets bounced back to them, and I go for the Thunder Wave. They switch out to Gardevoir, and I go for the Light Screen, just in case something happened. I wasn't really sure what would happen. I switch out into Roserade, and they go for a Thunderbolt, not predicting me to switch out, so that happened. And then they use Psychic. I think I turned my head for a second. I used Sledge Bomb, killed it. They switched into Talonflame, and Brave Birded me, and Roserade's gone. Sad face. I sent in Quagsire just because Talonflame can't really do much to it, so they U-turn, which is I haven't seen in a while. They wind up switching out into Sylveon, and I go for the Scald, which does not really work at all on it. They go for the Hyper Voice, which doesn't really help them because I have the Light Screen up, and I go for the Toxic and miss, of course. They go for another Hyper Voice and does a little more damage. I go for another Scald and does a little more damage. Can't get the burn either, so I'm not really winning either way. They go for another Hyper Voice, does more damage. I go for the Recover, hoping that I can go for another Toxic or two and survive. But my Light Screen disappears and Toxic misses again. So, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that. In any case, Quagsire loses, and I switch out into Bisharp. I go for the Swords Dance, expecting them to switch out, but they go for the Wish. I go for the Knockoff, once again expecting them to switch out, and I knock off their leftovers, so they didn't switch out. They go for Hyper Voice, which almost kills Bisharp, faints it, whatever, and their wish comes true, and I go for the Iron Head, and they switch out into Infernape, since Sylveon's now fainted. They go for the Mach Punch. I was hoping they wouldn't, so I could go for a Sucker Punch, but whatever. I go out into Zatu and go for the Reflect. They go for the Swords Dance, which I would love to have Quagsire right now, but that's not going to be a thing. I go for the Thunder Wave to slow it down. They go for a Fire Punch, which almost kills Zatu. I go for the Psychic, which knocks out the Infernape. They go out in Talonflame and Brave Bird to finish off the Zatu while also taking a significant amount of damage from the recoil of both of those. I go into Dragonite, and they still use Brave Bird and take more damage, and because the Reflect's still up, I don't take that much damage. I go for the Dragon Dance, and I go for it again because I was hoping they would just switch out into Gliscor or something. They go into the U-turn, and do end up going into Gliscor, which is what I was hoping for, but they also got the Toxic Heal, which I was not hoping for. I go for the Dragon Claw, and does more than half, which was a good sign. They wind up going for the Knockoff, which knocks off my Weakness Policy, which whatever. And I go for the Dragon Claw and finish off the Gliscor. They send in their Sableye, and unfortunately Will-O-Wisp by Dragonite. At this point I pretty much feel that all hope is lost because of the burn, but they get paralyzed at least, and I go for the Dragon Claw, which almost knocks it out, which I was really happy for a moment until they recover the next turn, and yay! I go for the Dragon Claw again because I don't know what else to do. I'm trying to buy time, I guess. I switch out into Gallade, hoping it could do something, hopefully. And they go for the Recover again, and the leftovers ends up healing it more. They get paralyzed. I go for the Knockoff, and knock off those leftovers. I was hoping Knockoff would do a little more. They go for the Recover again. I go for the Knockoff because I can't really do much else of anything. They get paralyzed again. I go for the Knockoff again. They get paralyzed again, and I go for the Knockoff again. And they get paralyzed one more time, and I end up fainting it with the Knockoff. Yay! They send in their Talonflame and Brave Bird, and pretty much destroys Gallade. Not pretty much, absolutely destroys it. And it faints, and because Dragonite was still left from when I switched it out, it survives, and I won. Yay!